Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gabrielle Rosegreen, and I am the Marketing Officer here at MS Tech Solutions Limited. Welcome to the first staging of today's webinar, Creating a Culture of Integrity. This promises to be a very exciting and engaging event, so please stay tuned. Also, we will be having a giveaway at the end of the presentation of an Amazon gift card valued at 100 USD. So you definitely want to listen keenly to what our speaker has to say. Now, before we start, have you ever heard the expression, the eyes are the window to the soul? Well, today we find out how truthful that popular expression is. In the corporate world, a lot of companies or organizations have fallen victim to irresponsible and deceptive individuals. But what if there was a way to test and seek out that deception from the start? What if there was a tool that was 90% accurate in evaluating job applicants, illegal or inappropriate activity, and even assess criminal activity? Today, we shall be discussing the software EyeDetect from Converse. Stay tuned to find out more about this fast, affordable, and accurate next generator lie detector test. Ladies and gentlemen, the eyes don't lie. All right, whilst we wait for the polls to come up, I'm going to go ahead and introduce today's speaker, the man of the day, Mr. Nash Youssef. Now, Nash is the president of iVestigate, an EyeDetect master distributor. A 20 plus year veteran of the computer industry, he has worked for popular companies such as Cognos, now IBM, and Sand Technologies. Nash currently works with organizations in a variety of industries in countries all around the world, including regional and national law enforcement, government agencies, as well as mid-sized and large corporations. Now, Nash lives in Toronto with his wife and two children, and he enjoys leisurely motorcycle rides in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Nash Youssef.
Thanks, Gabrielle. Very kind of you to introduce me. Welcome, everyone. Hoping today we can add some value to your world when it comes to hiring and managing people with integrity. Often we get into situations that we either hire or aren't sure if we're hiring the right people. Other times we hire people and we don't know if they've turned bad. Other times we just want to find out if people are guilty or not of a crime. So many different applications, many different situations. It's all about the integrity of the individual that you're hiring. So I'll hold it there until we're ready for the presentation. Thanks again for the warm introduction, Gabrielle. Welcome, everyone. Wanted to share a little bit today about how to screen out bad apples or reinforce good apples. Often when organizations hire, we want to make sure we hire the right kind of people, and we are often challenged to do this in a timely, efficient, cost-effective way. So I wanted to talk to you today about integrity, and talk to you today about how people can be confirmed as credible. So it's a credibility assessment that we're talking about today. Next slide. Yes, thank you. So you have, when hiring and when doing a number of things such as criminal cases, investigations, many different options in the marketplace today. The most popular ones are listed here on the left under method. And then why chosen is probably the most popular reason each one is selected. So for example, almost everybody that's hired often goes through some sort of interview process. Why is that good? Well, it's easy to do. A personality test, it's relatively inexpensive. We scroll down, there's other more scientific systems such as an MRI or an EEG. These typically require a medical type, fairly expensive, time-consuming, invasive, but are based on proven science. Polygraph is also fairly accurate. The nice thing is, with the solution we're talking about today, it's called EyeDetect. All of the above apply. So it's easy to do. It's inexpensive. You can do it relatively easily without a lot of intervention. It's based on science and it's extremely accurate. So if we wanted to dive into that a little deeper, the interview process, most people say they can kind of weed out the bad apples. Well, human intuition has been scientifically proven to be only about 54% accurate. So maybe not the best assessment for everyone. A personality test is not a deception test. It just finds out what kind of personality they have. Integrity tests, again, not the most accurate. Voice stress analysis, we're starting to work on a little more of the science-based, and it's a little bit more invasive. So maybe not the most welcomed. MRI, EEGs, very invasive, quite expensive. Polygraph, quite invasive, again, fairly expensive. EyeDetect doesn't have those. It is the most accurate of the ones listed, not invasive, relatively inexpensive, and very easy to do, and highly accurate. As we know, lying requires the brain to work. We call that cognitive load. And when you lie, that load is placed on your brain and your body, and the result is involuntary reactions you cannot control. We track those involuntary actions. With polygraphs, you're able to beat them. With EyeDetect, you are not able to beat them. They are completely involuntary. They require cognitive effort. What we analyze is mostly the eyes and a number of other behaviors. It is the first non-intrusive lie detector. It is very fast. It takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the number of subjects you're testing. And it is scientifically proven to be effective. It is also numerically, statistically proven to be highly effective as well. The things that we measure, EyeDetect measures a number of things. The most popular one is the pupil dilation, as in how big or how small the black dot in the center of your eye expands. When we lie, we have no control over it. Our pupils will dilate, they will open, they'll become bigger. Also, when you lie, you tend to chunk your words. In other words, when you're reading a sentence, your eye will focus on 2 or 3 words at a time instead of just 1 word at a time like you would normally read. And a number of other things such as blink rate, errors, etc. But mostly pupil dilation is what we zoom in on, and we focus our attention on that. And based on those uncontrollable items, those biometric items, they're called indicators, we are able, and actually we are not, the computer is able to tell whether or not a subject is telling the truth or lying. So scientifically, here's a test that was done. Sample size was 200, the N equals 200, done in 2013. On the left side, you can see the 3 lines, the relevant, the secondary, and the neutral declarations are very spread out. So the reaction, the biometric reaction, the way the subject's body reacts to the question, which is indicated by where the vertical line is spread out, showing cognitive load on the brain, and then the body reacts in different ways, and that's why you get the different lines reacting to the different subjects. On the right, when someone's telling the truth, the body doesn't have the same cognitive load. It doesn't have the same disparate actions that someone who's trying to be deceptive has. So it's very easy using our technology to now identify, based on specific questions, who's telling the truth and who's being deceptive. If you're in the polygraph game, if you know what a true polygraph machine is, you will automatically know the first 2 guys. They are the fathers of the polygraph. Dr. John Kircher and David Raskin are the de facto standard experts in polygraph. In fact, they're the ones that created the current computer-based lie detection machine that's used around the world today. It is the Kleenex box of the lie detection industry. The rest of the science team are also very well published and experts in the field. John Kircher and David Raskin, I've met Dr. Raskin a number of times, super guy, nice guy, willing to help any way he can. Spent the last 13 or so years developing, since they came out with a computerized lie detection system, developing the technology that EyeDetect is based on. So this is the state-of-the-art, latest generation, best and greatest lie detection system in the marketplace today. If you're into the science, this is the formula that the EyeDetect software uses to calculate truth, or in this case, deception. So it's based on ocular motor, which is eye movement characteristics, and a weighting. And then we set certain deceptive or truthful parameters based on what it is we're trying to measure. There is true science behind this. It is a computer-based statistical math model. There's no human intervention. There's nobody guessing as to whether or not someone's telling the truth or not. It's simply a computer that reads these involuntary biometric reactions, calculates whether or not someone is telling the truth, and then spits out a report. And we'll show you a little bit of that now. We use these lie detect systems for a few different things. For employment, it is very heavily used. We have companies all over the world using it to screen out employees before they're hired to make sure you hire the right people. Often cases, people doing internal moves, going from, say, line manager to executive roles, are often screened as well to make sure they are the right people that you want in these key roles. And then I'll give you an example of an ongoing situation, such as a pool of staff that needs to be tested on a regular basis to ensure they're still on the straight and narrow and not falling off by the wayside. There's also a different area, which is mostly around investigations, lawyers, police, law enforcement, government agencies, federal, provincial, state, local, as well as investigators, private PI and the like, all get involved with EyeDetect because it's able to weed out whether or not the person sitting across from them is telling them the truth or lying bald-faced to their face. So the system, without any human intervention and based on science, is able to wade through and tell you whether or not you are being told the truth or being lied to. And the system is used, EyeDetect is used for many different applications. We've got over 4,000 different tests written, and it could be things as simple as for stealing or bribery or drug use, or what do you want to find out whether or not the person's involved in terrorism or identity theft, or if they've had ties to criminal agencies, drug trafficking, fraud. Fraud we see a lot, especially in lateral or promotions. We want to make sure that person's not, as they get more power, also filling their pockets, etc. So lots of different applications. It's being used widely around the world. Rarely do we see now a test that we haven't already written. So it's pretty well ready to go out of the box. Everybody goes through these 3 steps once they're being tested, and then there's a result step after that. So to make sure the test is testing the information and not whether or not the person is comfortable with the test, we give them pre-test instructions. You will go through these steps when filling out this test. And then they run them through a practice test to make sure they get it. Once they're comfortable, the real test is then administered. The nice thing is, it doesn't matter what the subject matter is. If we haven't got a test written exactly to your specific recommendations, the guys at MS Tech have been trained and know how to tailor some of these pre-existing tests and make it fit your exact requirements so that it will do exactly what you want it to do, and you will test for exactly what it is you want to test. After the subject goes through the test, then they will receive, MS Tech will provide you with your results very fast, usually within the hour. So the subject sits in front of the station. This is an EyeDetect station on the left. They calibrate the eyes because we focus on the pupils of the eyes. You want to make sure the subject is sitting in a comfortable position and the eyes are centered in the tracker. Then they answer some true and false questions by clicking left or right on a mouse. Most people out there have used computers and know how to read a screen. So answering yes or no to a bunch of questions is something that most people are comfortable doing. So we're really testing the information and not for their ability to use a computer. Then the computer grabs that information, sends it off to our servers for scoring, and then the results are sent back. And the bottom is an excerpt of what you could receive as a result of a test. So on the left, it says not credible, deceptive, or on the right, it says credible, truthful. And then it goes through this, in this case, 4 different subjects areas that were tested. And obviously R1 is where they failed. They were credible on the other 3 subject areas. There is a lot of detail that comes with the report. This is a live report that we screen captured, included in this presentation. This is a real result of a real test. This is exactly the kind of results you can expect to have. You can capture as much or as little information. It could be the subject's name, age, reading history, a number of things, or you can keep it just general. And if you're protecting the subject's personal information, then you can just use an alphanumeric like this and then carry a key in an Excel spreadsheet or something. So it's very easy to administer. It is quick, it is painless, and it is definitely not a polygraph. It is something that the guys at MS Tech are very good at delivering. So your subjects will be happy going through it. There is also details in the report if you want to get to that level, and MS Tech is trained on how to read and understand and how to interpret this information. You can boil it right down to the individual question. So on the left side, the statement is what's being presented to the user. They're asked the same question 5 times, and then each question is scored. If you look second row, they were kind of off in the first question. I probably attribute that to just familiarity with the test and getting comfortable and clicking a little too quick. But 2/3 of the way down, there's a red one, and then a 20% score. That's definitely an indicator that there's some deception going on there. So as you get your test, you can have as much or as little detail as you want, and a expert, subject matter expert like the guys at MS Tech can help you interpret that. The results you got are typically credible. The outstanding majority of the people in the world still are good people, but there are some people that are not credible, and you'll get the different subject area reasons for that. They could be blatantly deceptive. They're lying. Often when we start asking some of these questions, people get the hint that they've been caught, so they'll confess on the spot. Others will be a little more shady in their confession. That'll be a probable confession. They'll try and deceive the tests by not answering in time, so that's called a timeout. Random responses, they'll just click A or B, or ABC. And again, the algorithm picks all that up. So it's going to be very difficult. We haven't really seen too many people that can beat the machine. The algorithm picks up on all this. Indeterminate is typically the result of a test proctor, the person that's administering the test, not watching and doing their job. So the guys at MS Tech won't do that, but say the person's blinking a lot, or the person's being really deceptive, but using other countermeasures. The training we've given MS Tech, they could pick up on that, and you should eliminate or really reduce the number of indeterminates you have. So typically you'll get credibility. On occasion, you'll get some non-credible. Most of those are because the person is lying to you. Okay, I've been told that we're going to pause on the video and maybe come back to it later. In the meantime, let's continue. So wanted to put a couple of slides in here to talk about COVID. If we can build the rest of this slide, please. Yes, thank you. There's one more. Um, COVID is a challenge because you have to still run your business, because you still have to lie, because crime doesn't stop. You still need to do your work. You still need to hire. You still need to weed out the bad apples. You still need to make sure the people you're promoting are the right ones. You still need to make sure that if there's a crime been committed, that you're convicting the right person or you're picking the right person to put your resources on as a enforcement organization. So what we do is we have been able to react to the requirements of COVID, and make sure that you're doing it in a fully compliant way. Other measures are very difficult to do that way. It's next to impossible to do an EEG or an ECG or a polygraph test without physically coming in contact with the person. So EyeDetect allows you to continue running your business while still being COVID compliant. A recent Harvard study said that we are going to be dealing with COVID protocols for at least another year or two. So it's good to be prepared, and it's good to be able to run your business during this extended time. Well, how do we do that? So make sure your subjects are COVID compliant. Make sure they're wearing masks. If they want to, they can wear gloves. Instead of having them put headphones on, which we often do to isolate them into the test they're conducting, we can do that through the standard computer speakers. And then we can take away a chin rest. Often we have a chin rest that keeps their head in place. If you get them to sit comfortably in one place, typically they'll keep their head comfortable, and the eye tracker can track their eye movements. The person administering the test is called a proctor, or in this case, an EyeDetect manager. We can have people, MS Tech people, do up to 4 tests at a time. In other words, we can have 4 subjects being tested at any time. At a maximum time of about half hour each, you can get through a backlog very, very quick, where you can get through a long list of candidates very quickly. The nice thing is they don't have to be in physical contact with the testee. And also they can be either in the room, which is common, or they could be in a completely different room, where we've seen it done in a different city. What the EyeDetect manager, sees, you have a choice organizationally to do it what you see on the left or on the right. I like the one on the right. You get to actually watch the subject's eyes. So if they know that you're tracking their eyes and they close their eyes or blink, 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 and cause other deceptive measures, then you're able to monitor that as a test manager. You also see how they're performing as far as consistency. That circle on the left, that blue graph line, shows you that they're not being deceptive or trying to use countermeasures. The image in the middle is those white dots are where their eyes are in relation to the green box, which is what the eye tracker is focusing on. So you can make sure that their eyes are in the right place and the tracker is able to see it. It is awfully difficult to defeat the EyeDetect system. So looking specifically at hiring, and then this is a law enforcement model. So a police agency, FBI, lots of federal organizations use this as well. We have some government organizations in the Middle East that use this incredibly well. Typically, when they're hiring, they put their applicants through some kind of written exam, and then they test their physical ability. Then they sit in front of a group of people and ask some questions. Then they do a very expensive and quite invasive background investigation. Then, and only then, do they get to the polygraph, because it's expensive and it's very invasive. And then they get into psychological evaluation, medical exam, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A expensive, extended, laborious process. With EyeDetect, we can do things to help you get through the number of people you're going through quicker, easier, less expensive, saving you money. So first thing we do is we replace the polygraph with EyeDetect right away. But what we've seen is more effective organizations have been able to bring that testing forward into the process What that results in is it saves significant time. I don't know anybody that's got investigators sitting around with nothing to do. Investigators are not cheap. They want to be utilized properly and effectively. It also speeds up your hiring process. I've seen organizations move EyeDetect right after they file their application. So I've walked into police organizations where right on the lobby where they drop off their application, there's a little room beside it, and EyeDetect set up in there. They go in, they go click, click, click on a computer, and within 5 minutes, they know who's been lying to them, because one of the questions we test for is, have you lied on your application? So right away, anybody that's lied, instantly eliminated. It takes away a lot of the guys that are lying to you. So it's a great way to reduce costs. It's not invasive, and if you use it effectively, it'll save you a ton of time and free up your resources for more effective things. As I mentioned, you're not the first organization to potentially use this. We have lots of clients around the world, everything from small organizations like Pepsi and Midas Muffler and FEMSA, and there's a variety of industries. It could be finance, it could be retail, it could be banks. We have a Brinks truck type organization, a money mover. We have almost anything you could think of. Anybody that has employees, including law enforcement, including large corporations, anybody with what I call sensitive people or people in sensitive situations, people that have authority or people that have purview over lots of money with the ability to move things around with little oversight. Those are organizations that use and can really take advantage. The ROI on this is stupid easy. Like, it pays for itself typically within the first month. So it's makes a lot of sense, and you're not the first. Some U.S. organizations, and I picked the law enforcement for today. We have, as I mentioned, lots of different organizations as customers throughout many different industries. I work with a number of them on the right side, especially the Israeli organizations. The things they're able to make EyeDetect do and the things they're able to uncover is incredible. Really, there's nowhere to hide anymore. So we can assess people's credibility quickly, easily, without the invasive headaches of other systems, and extremely accurately now. Some of the things that, and this is more field cases, more towards court cases. So, and we'll get into a couple of these case studies in a minute here. But things such as, say, the third one down, there was an 11-year-old that was, they thought he stole some things, but really couldn't pin him down. Circumstantial evidence, real challenging situation. And then when we put him in front of an EyeDetect test, he knew he was caught and just confessed right in the middle of the test. Sexual abuse cases, we'll get into some of these in a bit. The EyeDetect system was used to confirm deception, and the subject was convicted. And the opposite happens too. A doctor was going through an airport, was accused of weapons, arrested, put in jail, thought they were going to throw away the key on him. And then he did a EyeDetect test and EyeDetect together, and charges were dropped because it's with an EyeDetect and EyeDetect statistically, it's 99.9% accurate. So lots of very interesting situations and case studies, and it's now being used in court and admissible. One of those field cases, a 16-year veteran of the police force was getting promoted into a senior role. He was one of the liked people. Everybody trusted him, everybody liked him, and it was going to be a rubber stamp promotion, no problems at all. Then he failed the EyeDetect test, and they started carving into what's going on. The post-interview, they found out that they actually admitted to 4 informal disciplines were left off the application. So he didn't tell them that he had been disciplined 4 times already, and that they weren't on his record. And also, he confessed to a sexual relationship with a minor. So obviously, you can make your own assumptions to whether or not he was promoted or not. So yeah, it has the ability to uncover things that you typically would have not uncovered under regular existing processes, and you do it in such an easy way. It's great. So if you remember nothing else today, remember this. It is extremely accurate, more accurate than polygraph, more accurate than anything else, including human intuition. It is non-invasive. You sit in front of a computer, you click yes or no on a mouse, some questions that you read and you hear. It is completely automated, as in there's no human intervention. There's nobody guessing as to whether or not or influencing the results. The computer tells the subject the question, and they answer yes or no on the computer, and the computer measures the biometric indicators, and it scores and tells you whether or not the person is being deceptive or telling the truth. It's very scalable. You can do up to 4 tests at once, at half hour at a time. That's a lot of people. Very economical. MS Tech is a great company. Their service model makes a lot of sense. There is no ownership, there's no training, there's no anything. You just arrange with them a location and a schedule for their staff, and confirm the test, and you're moving. It's really, really financially feasible. It's quick, and you get the results exceptionally quickly and very effectively. So without further ado, I'll flip it back to Gabby. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I hope I've added value. I think we're going to take some questions, so please don't be shy.
Thank you, Nash, so much for that very interesting presentation. Um, it is in true fact what they say, that the eyes are the window to the soul. At this time, I would like to ask any of our participants to please, if you have any questions at this time, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we will get them, we will read them aloud. Or if you would like to speak, please utilize the raise hand feature and we will get to you. Thank you. All right, so our first question here is from a Mr. Keroy Graham. Isn't it a state of mind if I believe I'm telling the truth, even if it's a lie? Won't the software process it as the truth?
That's true. It is dependent on your state of mind. There are certain situations where you cannot test someone, a schizophrenic, which is what you're talking about, someone that truly believes that their lies are true, are not discoverable by any system out there. And again, we are 90% accurate, 92% accurate on some tests. There is that 8%. But there is no other means that we know of where a person can truly believe their lies enough to not put out markers or indicators that the EyeDetect system will pick up.
Thank you so much for that, Nash. Are there any other questions? Please, if you would like to ask something, please feel free to utilize the raise hand feature. Also, at this time, I would like to announce that MS Tech Solutions will also be doing live demos. So if it is that you are interested in a live demonstration, please contact your account manager. We will also be following up with everyone who has participated today. Thank you.
I invite anybody to try and get a demo. There is a demonstration, and when I was first introduced to this, I said, no, it doesn't work, don't believe it. Computers can't figure me out. And then I sat down and I did a demo, and it picked out my number every single time. They told me to pick a number between 1 and 10, and I did it over and over, and it was consistently accurate. And once it cut me over and over like that, I was sold. So I would invite anybody and everybody that has any kind of skepticism, such as the person asked that good question. Thank you for that question again. That was a good question. To sit and have a look at it and give it a test. I often typically put $100 on the table US and say, okay, here's $100. If I cannot pick your number, again, pick a number between 1 and 10. If I cannot pick your number, I'll give you that $100. I have never given out that $100 yet.
All right, if there are no more questions at this time, we're gonna try and get the video back up and running. And after that, we will have our giveaway. So I hope everyone has been paying attention. And I hope we're not just answering because we know we're gonna get an Amazon gift card. But I actually am seeing some questions coming in now. Thank you, Mr. Holness and Mr. Rose for participating. Mr. Holness is wondering what is the cost for the application?
Yeah, that's something you should have a conversation with your MS rep, MS Tech rep. They've got some models that make a lot of sense. They've got it set up where it's a very low barrier to entry, so you can get in and do this in very short order with virtually no startup cost. So I would encourage you to reach out to your MS Tech rep and have a good discussion with them. But when you do that, absolutely get a demo. Unless you see, touch, feel, and experience, and see just how effective this solution is, you really aren't as impressed as you could be. And really recommend you get a demo done.
Thank you, Nash. Mr. Rose is saying, oh, and before I read Mr. Rose's questions, it is dependent on exactly what you want to get done, but you can just reach out to an MS Tech rep and we will be able to put something together for you. Now, Mr. Rose is saying, instead of a law enforcement organization, how can the software be used in an employment situation without making the potential employee feeling offended?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I get that question often. We don't want to offend anyone. Every position of any consequence that I've ever had, I've had to do some kind of testing. And it could be as simple as filling out an application, could be simple as sending in your resume and then getting a background check. It just has to be incorporated into your hiring process as policy. A lot of organizations, it could be as simple as an organization that has people working in finance, accounting, and because they are working in positions where they're managing information that's important, they just have to go through the vetting process to make sure that they're not lying on their application, that they're not related to, say, criminal organizations, that they haven't created fraud in the past. And the way we position it typically is we'll have more than one subject area being covered. So typically we'll tell them, we just want to make sure you're telling the truth on your application. Have a seat here, and we'll ask them questions about the application. We'll ask them questions about their past, and then we'll ask them questions about whether or not they're being truthful on the application. So we're not coming out and telling them we want to make sure you're not lying to us. We're coming out and telling them that we just want to screen to make sure that everything is consistent. And so you soften the blow that way.
Thank you so much for that, Nash. I've also, I have done the EyeDetect test, and I can attest that I did not feel that I was under any pressure or anything of the sort. What we often use is the term credibility assessment. So we don't straight up say, hey, can you take this lie detector test for me? That way you have the participant or the subject feel a bit more comfortable. All right, Mr. Graham is asking another question. Does being nervous affect the results? Some persons get flustered easily and second guess themselves. For example, question, have you ever committed a crime? The person is nervous and flustered, so they start to think and wonder, have I ever committed a crime? When I did this at a point in my life, was that a crime? And so on for other possible questions.
I love your questions. Your questions are amazing. You and I should have a conversation afterwards. I think you're asking the right kind of questions and you're looking for the right kind of answers. So yes, I would expect virtually everybody that's doing a test like this has a sense of nervousness. That is partially built into the test. So we ask questions on there that are, I guess, normalized questions. So, we'll ask questions like, the Atlantic Ocean is made of sand, true or false? And they'll answer that question, and that's a pretty obvious answer. So we tend to take away some of the nervousness by, again, running them through a pre-test, instructions, practice test, and then the actual test, and then having normalized or standardized or non-subject area type questions that will capture some of that nervousness, and the algorithm sophisticated enough to eliminate based on those normalized responses. So everybody's got a certain pattern, everybody's got a certain speed, everybody's got a certain size of pupil, everybody's got a certain set of their own biometrics, and it's exacerbated by nervousness. The normalized questions account and set a baseline for those, for that nervousness, and then is transposed onto the subject area questions. Great question again, excellent.
Thank you, Nash. And I'm sorry to have skipped over Mr. Holness. He asked, is there a license structure?
There is. I would recommend you chat with your MS Tech guys. They are knowledgeable, they're up to speed. I've spent many hours talking with Dwayne. He knows this stuff, and your reps can connect with him. Yes, there is. It is a hardware model with a license model, and then there's training attached. My encouragement, though, is to look at the service model that MS Techs provides. Unless you're doing massive amounts of tests, in the hundreds of thousands. We have a customer that is a ride share. So I don't want to name any companies, but someone you would get on your app on your phone and say, I want to be picked up at a certain place and dropped off at a certain place. And you agree to the driver, et cetera, and then the driver shows up at the appointed time and it's on appointed place. That ride share company, they do tens of thousands per week. And because they screen every single applicant. There's been global situations where there's been assaults and situations in the back of their cars, or people have robbed their passengers, etc. So they literally test every single one of the drivers before they're hired, and then randomly after they're hired, and everybody's got to be tested once every year, randomly. So unless your application is such that you're doing such a large volume, it might make sense to explore the service model where the guys at MS Tech will help you and deliver the test for you, instead of having to buy and manage and service and take care of and train and all the added overhead that comes with a little bit more than just buying a computer and an eye tracker. And you got to write the tests, you got to validate the test. There's a lot that goes into this. And so a service model might make sense if your volumes aren't massive.
All right, thank you so much for that, Nash. And this ends the question and answer segment. If you do have any further questions, please direct them to an account manager and we will be able to facilitate that. Now at this time, I hope everyone has been paying attention because now we have the giveaway. So the question for the giveaway, and before I say the question, I would like everyone to please use the question and answer chat to say your answer. I hope we don't have any cheaters, but the question for the giveaway is, how long does it take to get an EyeDetect test result? How long does it take to get an EyeDetect test result? Okay, I see Mr. Mackenzie. Wow, we are wasting no time. Nash, would you like to give us the correct answer?
The test results come back in about 5 minutes. The computer captures the information, serves it up to our servers, and then you get the results virtually instantly. We say in about 5 minutes, but typically it's a couple of minutes, mostly dependent on your internet. So 5 minutes is the right answer.
All right, thank you so much, Nash. Mr. Mackenzie, you are our winner for today. We will keep in touch, and I hope you have a happy shopping on Amazon later. Don't spend it on anything. I wouldn't. This brings us to the end of our presentation. Mr. You said thank you so much for a riveting presentation, and thank you for educating us on the importance and the screening and diagnosis that goes into the EyeDetect test.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for participating. If you would like a live demonstration, please feel free to reach out to your respective account managers or just call any MS Tech representation and we will be able to organize that. Thank you so much and have a lovely rest of the day.